Demonizing children is wrong. We have to keep them safe as well. They're young. Sometimes they make silly decisions. They do.
The night Chicago celebrated the beginning of the holiday season should have been filled with warmth and light, a time when families and strangers alike shared the excitement of the season, when the streets glimmered with decorations and the towering Christmas tree in Millennium Park shone as a symbol of joy and unity. People laughed, posed for pictures, sipped hot drinks, and wandered the streets without a thought that a single moment could shatter the illusion of safety. But just a few blocks away, near the Chicago Theater, something happened that would rip through the heart of the city and leave questions lingering in the air long after the last siren faded. The calls came in almost immediately. Reports of shots fired, multiple victims, chaos in the streets, where just hours earlier, crowds had celebrated the city's holiday spirit. Officers rushed to the scene, navigating through panicked bystanders, unsure of what they would find. Witnesses described flashes, movement, fear, but no two accounts matched. Some insisted there were two shooters, others said one, a few claimed the sound came from a passing vehicle, and still others suggested someone disappeared into the crowd as quickly as the first shots rang out. Within seconds, what should have been a straightforward response became a labyrinth of confusion, contradictions, and incomplete accounts, a situation complicated further by the thousands of people still lingering in the loop, the excitement of the night masking the unfolding tragedy. By the time police arrived, they found victims on the ground, some injured, some in shock, all struggling to comprehend what had happened. Officers noted inconsistencies between witness statements and the initial reports. Surveillance footage revealed angles that didn't match eyewitness claims, shadows moving where no one should have been, and gaps that would later prove critical to understanding the sequence of events. These inconsistencies weren't minor. They were the beginning of a pattern that would define this investigation, a series of discrepancies that forced authorities to question everything they thought they knew about that night. The streets that had moments before been filled with laughter were now cordoned off, emergency lights painting the buildings in red and blue, the sound of sirens competing with the echoes of panic that still lingered in the air. Every movement, every decision in those initial minutes would carry consequences, some subtle, some devastating, and the investigation that followed would reveal how fragile the boundary between safety and chaos had become. As authorities worked to reconstruct what happened, they encountered challenges that would plague the investigation for weeks. Witnesses left before providing statements, cameras had blind spots, and some footage was missing entirely due to unrelated technical errors earlier in the day. The timeline, which should have helped piece the story together, was fractured, leaving investigators to navigate a complex web of partial recollections, conflicting reports, and uncertain sequences. And while the city grappled with the immediate aftermath, officials were forced to confront uncomfortable questions that the public would never fully hear. Were the measures in place adequate? Could more have been done to prevent this? Were there warning signs that had been ignored or dismissed? Each of these questions weighed heavily because in incidents like this, the line between preventable tragedy and unavoidable calamity is razor thin, and every decision, or lack of one, matters. The witnesses that remained offered fragmented pieces of the puzzle. One described a flash across the street, another claimed shots seemed to come from above, and a third insisted someone disappeared into the crowd, unseen. What made these accounts more troubling was that no single story matched the physical evidence, and no one could identify a clear suspect in the immediate aftermath. Yet patterns began to emerge in the chaos, subtle indications that this was not a random act, that the timing and location were more than coincidental, and that whoever had orchestrated this incident had an acute awareness of the city's rhythms that evening, the flow of people leaving Millennium Park, the density of the crowd, the limitations of police visibility. It became apparent that to understand what happened, investigators would need to go beyond the obvious, beyond the statements, and confront the deeper systemic failures that allowed this chaos to unfold in such a concentrated moment. And then came the moments that truly complicate the narrative, the details that would later be dissected endlessly. Footage revealed shadows where no one should have been. Witnesses recalled actions that initially seemed trivial but would later hold significant weight, and early assumptions about the incident were repeatedly challenged. Each revelation raised more questions than answers. The city's holiday celebration continued blocks away, oblivious to the trauma and confusion that had erupted just moments earlier, while first responders worked tirelessly to stabilize the scene, collect evidence, and piece together a story that was continually slipping through their fingers. It became increasingly clear that this was not just an isolated act, but an event shaped by preparation, timing, and circumstance, a collision of human behavior, city infrastructure, and unpredictable chaos that highlighted both the vulnerability and resilience of a city in the face of sudden violence. The story unfolding in the loop is not just about what happened in those critical minutes. It is about how a city responds, how institutions handle uncertainty, and how ordinary citizens are thrust into extraordinary situations. It is about choices made in the split seconds before and after the first shot, about the people who ran toward danger while others fled, and about the systems meant to protect them that were, in crucial ways, ill-prepared. And as this investigation continues, new witnesses come forward, previously overlooked details gain significance, and the narrative shifts, revealing that what we thought we understood about that night was only the beginning. Every revelation opens the door to more questions. Every unanswered call, every gap in the timeline forces a reevaluation of assumptions, and every moment of hesitation or confusion becomes a critical piece of a puzzle that remains incomplete. This is a story that refuses to stay simple. It is a story that challenges assumptions about safety, responsibility, and consequence. It is a story that demands attention, reflection, and engagement because the questions it raises are not confined to one night or one city block. They echo through communities everywhere, asking how prepared we truly are, how vigilant, and how often human error or oversight becomes the difference between life and death. And as this investigation moves forward, new evidence emerges, new angles are explored, and the city continues to grapple with the emotional, moral, and practical aftermath of that night. For those following this story, it is important to stay informed. Subscribe for updates because this investigation is ongoing, and as more details are revealed, the picture will continue to change. Every statement, every piece of evidence, every eyewitness account has the potential to shift our understanding of what occurred and why. And as we explore the twists, the contradictions, and the human elements that define this case, it becomes increasingly clear that the story of the shots in the loop is far from finished. It is a story that demands attention, that challenges perceptions, and that will continue to unfold in ways no one could have predicted. And as the city rebuilds its sense of safety, the investigation pushes forward, layer by layer, uncovering truths that some wish had remained hidden and revealing failures that society cannot afford to ignore.